family dinner was supposed to be a celebration. My son Jacob had just gotten a promotion. His wife Melissa wanted to host at their new house, the one they'd bought 6 months ago with help from a down payment gift I'd given them. $20,000 from the savings my late husband Thomas and I had built over 30 years of marriage. I arrived at 6:30 with a homemade apple pie, Jacob's favorite since he was a boy. The house was beautiful, I had to admit. Modern, spacious, in a neighborhood where the lawns were manicured and the cars and driveways were new. It was everything Jacob had worked for. Melissa greeted me at the door with her usual cool politeness. We'd never been close. She was 32, 10 years younger than Jacob, and came from money, the kind of old money that made my working-class background feel like a stain she had to tolerate. "Barbara, you're here. Come in." Not Mom, or even, "Barbara, how are you?" Just a statement of fact. Jacob was in the kitchen, looking handsome and successful in a button-down shirt and slacks. He hugged me warmly, and I caught Melissa's expression, a flicker of annoyance that her husband was affectionate with his mother. "Mom, you look great. Is that a new dress?" "This old thing? I've had it for years." It wasn't new. I couldn't afford new. Since Thomas died 3 years ago, I'd been living on his pension and Social Security, careful, frugal, the way we'd always lived. Melissa's mother, Carolyn, was already seated in the living room with a glass of wine. She was exactly what you'd expect. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, the kind of woman who'd never worried about money a day in her life. "Barbara," she said with a tight smile, "how nice to see you." We made small talk while Jacob finished cooking. Melissa's father arrived late, apologizing about traffic from the country club. The conversation naturally flowed toward their lives. The club, their recent trip to Europe, Melissa's sister's upcoming wedding. I sat quietly, listening, contributing when directly addressed. I'd learned over the years that in Melissa's family, my stories about nursing shifts and coupon clipping weren't valued contributions to conversation. During dinner, Melissa's mother noticed my ring. "Barbara, what an interesting piece. Is that vintage?" I looked down at my left hand, my engagement ring. Thomas had given it to me 42 years ago when he proposed in a parking lot after his shift at the factory. It was a simple gold band with a small diamond, nothing fancy, but it was mine. My late husband gave it to me when we got engaged. Carolyn leaned closer, squinting at it. "May I?" I hesitated, but good manners won out. I slipped the ring off and handed it to her. She examined it for a moment, then her expression changed, something between pity and disdain. "Oh, Barbara, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I don't think this is real." The table went silent. "What do you mean?" I asked quietly. "The stone. It looks like cubic zirconia. And the gold," she rubbed it between her fingers, "this looks like gold-plated brass. I've been collecting jewelry for 30 years. I know quality when I see it." My face burned. I reached for the ring, but Melissa had already taken it from her mother's hand. "Oh, wow, Mom's right. Barbara, did you know this was fake?" "It's not fake. Thomas bought it from a jewelry store he saved for months. He probably got scammed," Melissa said, turning the ring over in her fingers like it was a curious artifact. "Honestly, you should have had it appraised." Men from that generation didn't know the first thing about buying jewelry. They got taken advantage of all the time. "Melissa," Jacob's voice had a warning tone. "What?" "I'm just being honest. Your dad seems like he was a sweet man, but he clearly didn't know what he was buying. This is costume jewelry, at best." I felt something crack inside my chest. "May I have my ring back?" "Of course." Melissa handed it back carelessly. "You might want to keep it, though. It probably has sentimental value, even if it's worthless." I put the ring back on my finger with shaking hands. The rest of dinner passed in a blur. I couldn't taste the food. I couldn't follow the conversation. All I could think about was Melissa's voice saying worthless and fake about the ring Thomas had worked so hard to give me. After dinner, while Melissa was showing her parents something in the backyard, Jacob found me in the kitchen washing dishes. "Mom, I'm sorry about what Melissa said. She can be tactless sometimes." "It's fine." "It's not fine. She shouldn't have said those things about Dad's ring." I dried my hands and looked at my son. "Jacob, do you think it's fake?" He hesitated. Just for a second, but I saw it. "I don't know, Mom." "Does it matter?" "Does it matter? Your father gave me this ring. He told me it was a real diamond. He was so proud when he proposed. And now your wife is telling me he was either a liar or a fool. She didn't mean. Yes, she did. She meant every word. I left early, claiming a headache. The drive home was only 15 minutes, but it felt like hours. I kept looking at my ring and the red glow of the traffic lights. The small stone that had meant everything to me for 42 years. Was it really fake? Had Thomas lied to me? Had he been scammed? Or was Melissa just being cruel? That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Thomas, about the day he proposed. We were both 22, working entry-level jobs, living paycheck to paycheck. He told me he'd been saving for 6 months to buy the ring, that he'd gone to 3 different jewelry stores before finding one he could afford. It's small, he'd said, almost apologetically, as he opened the little velvet box in that parking lot, but it's real. One day when we have more money, I'll get you something bigger, something worthy of you. I told him it was perfect, that I didn't need anything bigger, that all I needed was him. We never got that bigger ring. Money was always tight. We had Jacob 2 years later, and after that it was mortgages and car payments and college funds. The ring stayed on my finger through 40 years of marriage, through good times and hard times, through Thomas's illness and his death. And now Melissa was telling me it was fake. The next morning I made a decision. I needed to know the truth. Not because I cared about the monetary value, but because I needed to know if Thomas had lied to me, if the foundation of our marriage had started with a deception. I looked up jewelry appraisers in the area. There were several, but one had particularly good reviews. Morrison & Sons Fine Jewelry, established 1952, family-owned, specializing in estate jewelry and appraisals. I called and made an appointment for that afternoon. The shop was in an older part of downtown, nestled between a bookstore and a cafe. The exterior was modest, but the window display showed beautiful pieces, antique rings, elegant necklaces, estate pieces with history. A bell chimed as I entered. The interior was warm, all dark wood and soft lighting. Display cases lined the walls, filled with jewelry that sparkled under careful illumination. "Good afternoon, can I help you?" The voice came from a man in his 60s wearing a jeweler's loop around his neck. He had kind eyes and silver hair. "I called earlier, about an appraisal." "Mrs. Patterson, yes. I'm Edward Morrison. Please have a seat." He gestured to a velvet chair at a workbench near the window. I sat down, suddenly nervous. "What do you have for me today?" I pulled the ring from my finger, something I almost never did, and placed it on the black velvet pad he'd set on the bench. "My engagement ring. I've been told it's not real. I'd like to know for certain." Edward picked up the ring carefully, examining it first with his naked eye, then with the loop. He was silent for a long moment, turning it slowly, studying it from every angle. "Who told you this wasn't real?" he asked finally. "My daughter-in-law. Her mother. They said the diamond looked like cubic zirconia, and the gold was probably brass." He set the ring down and pulled out several tools, a jeweler's scale, a testing kit, what looked like a small spectrometer. "May I perform some tests? They're completely non-invasive." "Yes, of course." I watched as he worked methodically, making notes, consulting a reference book, testing the gold, examining the stone under what he called a microscope. The process took nearly 20 minutes. My heart was pounding the entire time. Finally, he looked up at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Mrs. Patterson, I have good news and I have interesting news." "Okay." "The good news is that your ring is absolutely real. The gold is 18 karat, which is actually quite good quality, and the diamond," he paused, "the diamond is genuine, natural, not cubic zirconia, not any kind of simulant. It's a real diamond." The relief that flooded through me was physical. Thank you so much. But here's the interesting part. He gestured for me to look through the microscope. This diamond is old. Based on the cut and the internal characteristics, I date it to approximately the 1940s or 1950s. It's what we call an old European cut. This isn't the kind of stone you'd typically see in an engagement ring from the 1980s. What does that mean? It means this stone has history. It came from somewhere, an estate piece perhaps, a family heirloom, someone's grandmother's ring that was sold or passed down. He looked at me carefully. "Do you know where your husband purchased this?" He said he went to several jewelry stores before finding one he could afford. Edward nodded slowly. "I have a theory, if you'll indulge me." Please, your husband found this ring at a jewelry store that specialized in estate jewelry. The stone itself is approximately 0.4 carats, not large by modern standards, but respectable for the time period. Based on current market values and adjusting for 1980s prices, this ring would have cost between $2,000 and $3,000 when it was new. The number shocked me. That much? Absolutely. 18-karat gold and a genuine diamond, even a small one, were never cheap. Your husband didn't get scammed, Mrs. Patterson. He bought you something of real quality and value. I looked at the ring on the velvet pad, seeing it differently now. What would it be worth today? Edward consulted his notes. Given the quality of the gold, the authenticity and characteristics of the diamond, and the vintage nature of the piece, I'd appraise it at approximately $8,000. Possibly more to the right collector who appreciates old European cut diamonds. $8,000. My fake ring was worth $8,000. There's one more thing, Edward said. May I? He handed me a magnifying glass and pointed to a spot inside the band. There's an inscription. Very small. It's worn with age, but you can still make it out. I looked through the magnifying glass. Inside the gold band, barely visible, were letters engraved EMH to CLH 1948. Someone's initials, I said softly. Someone's love story, Edward corrected. This ring was made for someone else first, someone who loved enough to have it engraved. And somehow, decades later, it found its way to you and your husband. I thought about Thomas in that jewelry store, looking at ring after ring he couldn't afford, then finding this one. Vintage, beautiful, within his budget because it was estate jewelry. Had he known about the inscription? Had he known he was buying a piece of someone else's history? Thank you, Mr. Morrison. You've answered questions I didn't even know I had. Would you like the appraisal in writing? Yes, please. He printed out an official document, complete with his certification and the store's seal. The appraisal listed every detail. The gold content, the diamond specifications, the estimated value, the historical context. I left the jewelry store with my ring back on my finger and a piece of paper in my purse that changed everything. That evening, I called Jacob. Mom, hi. Listen, I wanted to apologize again for last night. Jacob, I need you and Melissa to come over tomorrow evening. Both of you. Is everything okay? Everything is fine. I just have something I need to show you both. There was hesitation in his voice. Melissa has Pilates. She can miss Pilates. This is important. Maybe it was something in my tone, but he agreed. The next evening, they arrived at my small house at 6 o'clock. Melissa was dressed in her workout clothes, making a point about what she was missing. Jacob looked nervous, like he expected bad news. Come in, sit down. They sat on the couch Thomas and I had bought when Jacob was in high school. It was worn but comfortable, like most things in my house. I want to talk about what happened at dinner 2 nights ago. Melissa's expression became guarded. Barbara, if this is about the ring thing, I was just being honest. You told me my engagement ring was fake, that my late husband had been scammed or didn't know what he was doing. I said he probably didn't know. You made me doubt a gift that has meant everything to me for 42 years. You made me question my husband's integrity and intelligence. You did this in front of your parents, in front of your son, and you did it with complete certainty. Jacob shifted uncomfortably. Mom, where is this going? I pulled out the appraisal document and placed it on the coffee table. I had the ring professionally appraised yesterday by a certified jeweler with 40 years of experience. I'd like you both to read this. Melissa picked it up first, scanning it quickly. I watched her face change as she read. The confidence drained away, replaced by something between shock and embarrassment. This says, she started, it says my ring is real. 18-karat gold, genuine diamond, appraised value of $8,000. The diamond is actually vintage, dating to the 1940s. My husband didn't get scammed, Melissa. He bought me something beautiful and valuable, and he did it with money he'd saved working double shifts at a factory. Jacob took the paper from his wife and read it himself. Mom, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything, but Melissa does. Melissa's face was red. I made a mistake. You thought that because my husband was working class because we didn't have money, the ring must be fake. You looked at my life and my marriage and you judged it as less than yours. Worthless. Costume jewelry. That's not what I meant? That's exactly what you meant. And you know what the worst part is? You made me doubt him. For one whole day, you made me wonder if the man I spent 40 years with had lied to me. If our marriage had started with a deception, you did that with your casual cruelty. The room was silent. Jacob was staring at his hands. Melissa was pale. I need you both to understand something, I continued. Your father and I built our life on respect and hard work. We didn't have country club memberships or trips to Europe. We had a mortgage we paid off, a son we raised, and a marriage built on honesty. This ring represents everything we were, and you dismissed it as fake without a second thought. Barbara, I'm sorry. Melissa's voice was small. I really am. I shouldn't have said those things. No, you shouldn't have. But you did. And it showed me exactly how you see me, as someone beneath you, someone whose life and choices are inferior to yours. Mom, Jacob started. Let me finish. Jacob, you're my son, and I love you. But you need to understand something. When you married Melissa, I welcomed her into our family. I gave you money for your house, money your father and I had saved. I've been supportive even when she's been cold to me, but I won't tolerate disrespect. Not to me, and especially not to your father's memory. What are you saying? Jacob asked. I'm saying that relationships go both ways. I've been trying to have a relationship with Melissa for 5 years. I've swallowed her criticisms, her judgment, her barely concealed contempt for my working-class background. I've done it because you love her and because I wanted to keep peace. But after what happened at dinner, I realized something. You can't have a relationship with someone who fundamentally doesn't respect you. Melissa stood up abruptly. I said I was sorry. What more do you want? I want you to mean it. I want you to actually see me as a person worthy of respect, not as someone to tolerate because you married her son. That's not fair, isn't it? Have you ever asked me about my life? My work as a nurse? My marriage? Anything beyond surface pleasantries? Have you ever treated me like family instead of like an obligation? She didn't answer. I didn't think so. I turned to Jacob. Your father taught me something important. He said that you can judge a person's character by how they treat people who can't do anything for them. People who don't have power or money or status. I've been that person in Melissa's life, and I've seen exactly how she treats me. Mom, please don't do this. Jacob's voice was strained. She made a mistake. She apologized. Did she? Because it sounded to me like she was sorry she was wrong, not sorry she hurt me. Melissa's jaw tightened. What do you want from me, Barbara? You want me to grovel? You want me to pretend I'm not from a different background than you? I want you to treat me with basic human decency, but I don't think you're capable of that. This is ridiculous. Come on, Jacob. We're leaving. But Jacob didn't move. He was looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Mom, are you saying you don't want to see us anymore? I'm saying that I'm tired. I'm tired of being judged. I'm tired of being made to feel small. I'm tired of pretending that Melissa's behavior is acceptable because we're supposed to be family. If she wants a relationship with me, it has to be built on respect, real respect, not tolerance. And if I can't do that? Melissa's voice was challenging now, her embarrassment turning to defiance. Then I suppose you've made your choice. They left shortly after that. Jacob tried to hug me goodbye, but it was awkward, strained. Melissa walked out without another word. I sat alone in my living room after they'd gone, turning the ring on my finger, the ring that was real, the ring that Thomas had chosen with love and care, the ring that represented everything we'd built together. My phone rang around 9 o'clock. It was Jacob. Mom, Melissa and I have been talking, okay? She's upset. She thinks you're being unfair, that she apologized and you're holding a grudge. Is that what you think? A long pause. I think maybe you're right about some things. Melissa can be judgmental. She does look down on people who don't have what she has. I've ignored it because it was easier than dealing with it. But hearing you say it out loud, Jacob, I love you. You're my son. But I won't accept cruelty disguised as honesty. Not anymore. What happens now? That depends on Melissa. If she can genuinely treat me with respect, then we can rebuild a relationship. But if she can't, then I'll see you at holidays and keep things cordial and distant. I won't force a closeness that isn't there. She's really angry right now. I imagine she is. She's not used to people setting boundaries with her. Mom, I don't want to lose you. You won't. But your wife needs to understand that respect isn't optional. It's required. We said goodbye, and I went to bed not knowing what would happen next. 3 days later, I received a text from Melissa. Can we talk? Just the two of us. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our homes. She looked tired, less polished than usual. We ordered drinks and sat in a corner booth. I've been thinking about what you said, Melissa began, and I talked to my mother. Did you? She said I was out of line, that even if I thought the ring was fake, I shouldn't have said it that way. In front of everyone. Your mother was right. Melissa took a breath. I owe you a real apology. Not because I was wrong about the ring, though I was, but because of how I treated you. You're right that I've been dismissive of your life, your history. I waited. I grew up with money, with privilege, and I think somewhere along the way I started believing that money meant value, that expensive things were inherently better than affordable things, that people with resources were smarter or more successful than people without them. And now I'm realizing how stupid that sounds when I say it out loud. How cruel. She met my eyes. Your husband saved for months to buy you a ring he thought was beautiful. He worked hard to give you something special, and I dismissed that as worthless because it wasn't big enough or flashy enough. That was wrong. Really wrong. Yes, it was. I don't know if I can change overnight. I don't know if I can unlearn 32 years of conditioning, but I want to try. If you'll let me. I looked at this woman my son had married. I saw, maybe for the first time, that she was young, that her snobbishness wasn't malicious but learned, that there was a possibility, however small, for growth. I need you to understand something, Melissa. My husband died 3 years ago. That ring is one of the few things I have left of him. When you called it fake, you didn't just insult a piece of jewelry. You insulted our entire life together. You made me question whether the man I loved had been honest with me. That kind of pain doesn't go away with a simple apology. I know, I'm so sorry, truly. If we're going to have any kind of relationship, you need to stop judging me. Stop looking down on my choices, my home, my life. I may not have your money or your lifestyle, but I have dignity, and I demand respect. You deserve it. You deserve so much better than how I've treated you. We talked for an hour. It wasn't perfect. There were stilted moments and awkward pauses, but it was honest, more honest than we'd ever been with each other. Can I ask you something? Melissa said as we were leaving. The inscription in the ring. EMH to CLH 1948. Do you know whose it was originally? No. Mr. Morrison said it was probably from an estate sale. Someone's love story that ended and the ring got sold. That's sad. Maybe, or maybe it's beautiful. Maybe that ring carried love from one couple to another. Maybe it was meant to find us. Melissa smiled slightly. That's a nice way to look at it. 6 months later, Melissa and I weren't best friends. We probably never would be, but there was respect now. Real respect. She asked questions about my nursing career. She stopped making comments about my house or my car. When they came over for dinner, she helped with dishes and asked if she could see photos of Thomas. One evening, as we were looking through an old photo album, she stopped at a picture of Thomas and me on our wedding day. I was wearing my ring, holding up my hand to show it to the camera. You look so happy, she said softly. We were. We didn't have much, but we had each other. Jacob showed me the appraisal document. $8,000. Your ring is worth more than mine. She touched her own engagement ring, a large modern diamond that had cost Jacob considerably more than $8,000. But yours has a better story. Maybe they both have good stories. Different, but good. She nodded. I'm sorry I couldn't see that before. You see it now. That's what matters. My name is Barbara Patterson. I'm 64 years old. My daughter-in-law told me my engagement ring was fake, and I had to prove her wrong. In the process, I learned something important. Real value has nothing to do with price tags. It has to do with love, sacrifice, and the meaning we attach to things. That ring on my finger represents 40 years of marriage. It represents a young man working double shifts to save for something special. It represents a love story from the 1940s that somehow found its way to me. It represents dignity and pride and the kind of wealth that has nothing to do with bank accounts. If someone ever tells you that something you treasure is worthless, don't believe them. Value is subjective. Meaning is personal. And sometimes the smallest stone can hold the biggest love. My ring is real. My marriage was real. And no one, no matter how much money or status they have, gets to tell me otherwise. The jeweler didn't just prove Melissa wrong. He proved that love and integrity are worth more than gold, even when they come wrapped in gold.